And we did a collective exercise about why main streets last time, and we talked about 15 of them. I promised to get back to you with a consolidated why based on the experience and people's lived experience on why main streets, why we care about them, and three pillars emerge. The first one is about community and connection. The other one was about human-centered design. And the third was about democracy. So I'm just going to show you very quickly, and you have on your tables the why. And I'm going to start by reading one, and then if you feel like something's missing or there's a showstopper, please let me know. So the first one is about community, and it came out very strongly, and people said main streets are the places that make us feel at home, and it gives us a strong sense of belonging in the world. It reflects our cities' unique and diverse identities and cultures, and they're foundational to fostering social exchanges and integration, making our cities stimulating, lively, and human by enabling us to gather, meet, linger, and connect together with diverse groups of people in a communal, vibrant environment. So I kind of took all of the things and tried to mesh them in a short sentence. I don't know if people have any showstoppers for this one.
Did you use AI to generate this?
Assisting, yeah.
Okay.
I use now ChatGPT is like a tool like Google when I discovered it in my teenage years. So, and you'll start using ChatGPT and DALL-E after these sessions. I'm positive about that. So, so the second one was we talked about human-centered design, and we talked about how they're vital arteries in our city's ecosystem, and it's accessible to people of all abilities and even transportation modes. They facilitate unimpeded movement and connect us to essential services, commerce, and green spaces. But they're not just thoroughfares, they're pedestrian-friendly destinations that engage us with unique local products and activities, serving as a sampler of what the best of our cities have to offer. And by the way, that's Montreal, a picture I took this past summer. And then the last one that came and was interesting is democracy, and this is actually from Mass Avenue. They're also democratic places where they promote civic engagement and it transcends commercial activities. They're real, living, breathing, and dynamic spaces that provide us with an antidote to the online-centric world. And the idea that came out is with AI tools, we aspire to advance what we'll call communicative democracy in our cities that facilitate engagements with a diversity of peoples so we can co-design community-driven main streets. So those were the three that came out. I don't know if people see any showstoppers or things that are missing. Good. And this is basically just like a summary which I've left on the table that you can look at. But basically, those three pillars of community, human-centered design, and democracy, main streets, it's where they come to life. Which was actually on point when we look at the literature in terms of the economic impacts, like Main Street, I call it Main Street economics. A lot of times for policymakers, they want to know what's the value of a specific thing. So once they like to have quantified values, and that pushes policymakers to care about an issue. And there's been a lot of studies on main streets and their contributions. It's not always consistent because there's not like a common definition. But in the US, they represent 13% of all business earnings. In Canada, back in the early 2000s, there haven't been a study since, but they said they represented 28% of Canada's GDP. And in the UK, 47% of businesses are outside of London are on main streets. And a lot of Americans are employed in retail, and actually it's one of the largest employer of low-income Americans. And with the disappearance of main streets, the worry is these people are going to be displaced, and it's going to create a an environment like what happened with manufacturing decline. Another thing is localism, the aspect of if you spend your money on in a Main Street business, $68 of $100 goes back to the community compared to a chain store. So that's something that's interesting. And 28% of Main Street business owners in the US are immigrants. And beyond the economics, 40% of Main Street small businesses in the UK perform social functions, not just economic. So whether it's providing advice to their customers or guiding them to integrate into the community. It's also a space where a lot of marginalized and underrepresented groups go. 51% of visitors are not in employment on main streets compared to 27% in other London areas. And they play an important role in street activation. So you see, there's been research done about how people in front of Main Street shops end up spending more time or like converge compared to chain stores. And we're going to see why. And one thing I found really interesting when I read is if you don't have these spaces where people can get to know each other and it fosters weak ties in communities, what happens is you end up losing political power in the community, and that's something that we see a lot with the online transition.